Hello everyone, how you guys doing? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day, and today we are here with a video on how to never go broke again in Old School Runescape, something a little bit different. Typically I make money making videos, and oftentimes that's what people want because they're worried about making the money. But what about saving the money? What about not blowing it all in some way that is not beneficial to your account or in some natural type of disaster that happens to your account? That is often what we don't talk about, but this video we're gonna. So we'll start this video by talking about more of the general ideas and themes that you'll recognize. So with Old School RuneScape, it is a game that has been around forever. I mean, RuneScape has been around for 20 years, Old School RuneScape for about 8. It'll be around for, a ton of time to come. And so I don't understand why a lot of people in Old School RuneScape always seem so focused on what's in front of them and just the day-to-day. They're not really worried about the long term, when in reality, most people are going to play this game for a while. You might float in and out, but you'll be around for a long time in theory, and I mean, most of us have been. So I don't understand why everyone's always so focused on the now, but typically people are just worried about getting their bank value up in theory, just trying to compete with other people. I think it's just the competitive nature that we have, so everyone's trying to get that step up on someone else and trying to find that shortcut that can just accelerate them off to the moon, where they can go make their money, go PVM, go do all the things that they want to do. And it's all fun, it's all nice. What I'd say, just generally speaking, is the journey's the fun part, not the destination. Once you have a ton of money, like, you miss the days where you were working for that money. But that's in RuneScape. Regular life, I'm not sure yet. But those people that are looking for that step ahead, just being able to skip up that ladder, those are the people that are going to be most prone to falling for these pitfalls along the way that can really cause a catastrophic collapse in your bank. Essentially, if you viewed it like this, you could be a stock market, for example, that's just constantly churning away. You're doing a good job, it's just slowly chipping away, time over time, just going up, and then suddenly something happens, whether it be you went staking, you got hacked, just absolute collapse. And that's what we're trying to avoid here with this video. It's nice to think about the ups, but here we're going to focus on the downs. So the first one is the most common way in which I think people are going to lose their money, and that is through lures. Luring is where you find a stranger that has some valuable items that you like, and you convince them to follow you to some place where you can kill them or take their items or do something of the sort. You can scroll through YouTube endlessly. There are pages upon pages upon pages of just different lures, and you could write them all down and try to figure it all out. I mean, essentially, there are tons of different ones, so trying to prep for each one is not possible. But essentially, the main crux is that as long as you aren't looking for these shortcuts in the game, you'll be fine. Also, everyone knows as kids, you're taught that strangers are dangerous people and you should probably approach with caution. So, add that along with anonymity in a game where people can take your items. Yeah, you should approach with caution. Another thing to remember is whenever you're engaging with these strangers, if for some reason the stranger is taking you somewhere that you're not familiar with, or they want you to bring items for some reason, I would advise never bringing items. Of course, if they're an actual friend, you could trust them a little bit to whatever extent you feel like, but obviously if they're taking you anywhere that is suspect in any way towards the wilderness or in a PvP world of some sort, or dropping items or anything like that, then of course, do not do that. If anyone was ever going to give you money, oftentimes in these luring scenarios, they try to tell you like, hey, if you bring your items and valuables, I'll give you this item that you value. And it makes no sense why they couldn't just give away their stuff to you right when they met you or wherever you're at. You don't have to go anywhere or do anything, or you don't have to do anything to be able to just give someone else an item or money. Personally, I've done a ton of giveaways on YouTube and Twitter and stuff like that, and I've never had to meet the person somewhere else and make them bring their valuables. It doesn't make any sense. There's no reason I'd ever do that. So just know, if people are going to be genuinely nice to you, they'll just do it. They don't need anything out of you. If they need something out of you, that's the first sign just to cut it off. Another thing when approaching lures is do not become curious in any sense. If you get the idea that someone's trying to lure you somewhere or take your items off you or whatever, just cut it off. Do not follow them. You can even bank your stuff and then start to follow them, and you'll think you're doing good, but essentially what you're doing is you're trying to probably plan some sort of anti-lure, or just, I don't know, you're trying to figure it out and make some sense of it, when in reality, it doesn't matter. If you're someone that isn't going to be involved in this anymore, just leave. It doesn't matter if you understand what's going on, if you can counter lure them, if you can do whatever you're trying to do. nothing good's going to come out of it. You're either wasting your time or you're going to put yourself in a scenario where you try to counter lure them or mess with them somehow, and ultimately they're probably prepared for that and they'll just answer back with something else. I've seen plenty of people think that they can counter lure and then they go try to PK them and then they get killed and then they lose money. It's like, it doesn't make any sense. So I would say just be really cautious with that. Typically, there's no way to make just easy money, so just stay away. And then along with that whole luring subject, the Grand Exchange is just a hotbed for all of this mess. You want to, I mean, obviously you have to go there, but you want to avoid engaging when possible. There are some friends you can meet there and people, I guess, but it's mostly toxic. For example, all the people that sit around and say buying items for this, that, or another certain price, you know, it makes no sense. Why would someone be buying or selling items right next to the thing that buys and sells items? It doesn't make any sense at all. The only reason they're there is because there's a lot of people going in and out of the Grand Exchange every day, so there's just a lot of eyeballs that they can potentially scam. And for the higher level players at the Grand Exchange that like to wear like good armor, maybe you're just kind of rich, so people notice that you have goodies. There are people that will go around befriending people to then eventually lure. So if you do find a GE friend and within the next week or two they're hitting you up, telling you to go on a PK trip with them or do the I don't know, whatever they want to do. Little sketch. Definitely check out these people more and make sure they're truly friends before you go do anything where you could be put in a harmful scenario. Now that we've avoided all of the luring that is to be had, next is hackers. These are not necessarily something, you're engaging with. Typically, if you get lured, I kind of feel like it might be your own fault, but hackers, it is just something that I understand. Most people think it won't happen to them, and so they just don't protect their account enough. And just for an example here, I have some friends that have gotten back into Old School Runescape in the last year, and half of them have been hacked. So essentially, with how many leaked databases there are on the internet, there's just bots that plug in emails and passwords and just take RuneScape accounts from what I understand. I don't know how else they would be achieving these hacks at such large numbers. So now that you understand that it can happen to you, ways to avoid it. First is a bank pin. This isn't going to, fully secure your account, but it is nice. It's so simple. And as long as you have it, most everything behind your bank should be safe. I've heard of occasional stories where bank pins get cracked, but I've heard a lot more stories where bank pins do save your bank. I know that the bank pins can be annoying, and it does take a few seconds every single time you log in, essentially, so I understand it, but the risk-reward teeter-totter is just so heavily against you if you don't have a bank pin, because the amount of hours you'd have to put in if you do get hacked is so much more than the amount of time you would have put in if you were just putting in a bank pin. Next is the Authenticator. This is a must-have. You can do it through the Old School RuneScape website by going into your account settings and setting it up through your phone, essentially linking them together so that you are the person that is in control of the account, and whenever you need to log on to the account, it will ask you for a code through the Authenticator app. This is absolutely incredible, and I think the most game-changing aspect in terms of account security, so if there's anything that you can get, this would be it. And then lastly is to step up the security on your email. Now this just depends on kind of what email provider you're going through, but two-step authenticator, whatever you can put on your email to make sure that it's connected to your phone in some sort of way as well so that people cannot access your email is direly important, because if you don't do that, someone could access your email and then take away the authenticator, and then they could access your RuneScape account that way, but they'd have to have access to your origin email, which typically is pretty hard to do. So now that we've gone through people preying upon other people, we'll go through just personal mistakes that you might make that can set you on the wrong path. So the first one is staking. This is one that, I just always hammer home. I'll start by saying I used to stake a bunch, so I'm not above this. I'm not speaking as if I'm like some all-knowing, I've experienced it, so I'm coming at you with that experience. Staking in any form of life is essentially a losing game. It's not something you could expect to win, or else people would just sit there and stake all day and just rake in the dough. Typically offering some short-term fun, which is nice, but only good if you do it seldomly. If you start to do it a lot, that's when it obviously becomes problematic, and it's also very hard to control that, so that's where the problem occurs. So the main problem with staking, of course, is losing your money. No one wants to do that, but the real issue is that people then start to detach value from their GP. Once you start throwing GP around so willy-nilly at the duel arena and you just see the inflow and outflows of GP at large numbers, you kind of become desensitized to it in a sense, and so you don't really understand exactly what you're doing. For example, if someone were to go into 100 mil stake and instead of saying 100 mil GP on the board, it said 50 hours of warcav, I don't think people would be as likely to stake if they truly cared about their time, their effort that they put into their account. You know, it would definitely hit home a lot more. But whenever it's just that raw GP amount, people just kind of lose sight of it and, you know, just start staking whatever, really. At the end of the day, you work hard for your money in Old School Runescape, so there's no reason that you should go around wasting it. I also used to PK, and that is the next aspect of this video as well, along the same lines of staking in the sense that, I mean, just simply put, it's negative expected value, so you're going to lose money doing it. However, here with PK, you could actually be good enough in theory to maybe make some money, which is nice. Most people are probably going to be PKing in like Rune Armor or Darok or something like that, and even then, like the most value that you could swing is 2-5 mil, something like that, and essentially whenever you're swinging 2 to 5 mil on maybe a 5 to 10% edge in a PKing fight, it's not a lot of money, especially with the taxes and the supplies used and all of that. So basically, you don't make as much money as you would think PKing. It may feel nice, and honestly, it is a good time PKing, but one of the biggest issues for me is that the people that PK right now and in Old School RuneScape are just insanely good. What you see is an iceberg in PKing. The people that are there are the top of the iceberg. They're the best of the best that have been able to survive and just, you know, keep up having fun and enjoying the game while still making a ton of money PKing. And everyone else is just, you know, bottom feeders that go have a good time, get wrecked, and then probably never PK again because they stand no chance. And so it's really hard to work your way up to the top of that iceberg when, you know, there's so much you have to work through with taxes, time consumption, just, it's an incredibly negative expected value game, so to be able to come out on top is incredibly hard and also pretty frustrating. A lot of PKers don't seem to be having the most fun with Old School RuneScape. And then the only thing that naturally happens in the game that I feel like the average player just might not know enough about, and it could absolutely destroy their bank value, is buying a new item that, you know, has a ton of value at the beginning and then just tanks. Like, it's happened to me more than I'd like to admit. So I definitely know what I'm talking about here. But I mean, whenever a new item comes out, you have to understand that they're going to just be placed at such a high value because they're being slow dripped into the game. And at the beginning, you're just going to see the highest bidders win, and it is going to be people with far too much money. If you view an item in Old School RuneScape a lot like you'd view a new car being released or a new Pokemon set coming out or whatever, typically if you get the use out of it, say for instance you use the car off the lot or you open the Pokemon packs, you're going to lose money. That is just how it works. Whenever you get this item, you shouldn't be expecting for it to go up or even maintain value, to be honest. And oftentimes people don't understand this, so then they'll buy in on an item, they'll keep it for a while. Next thing you know, they didn't even make their money back in the time that they were using the item. And honestly, it's terrible, it's awful, but it makes sense. A couple examples that stick out to me are the crossbow. That was a few hundred mil at one point, and then, I mean, now has been worth anywhere between like 5 and 15 mil, which is an incredible loss. And even then, I mean, you could have been killing revs, making some good money back, but you would have had to grind like a lot of revs to get that money's worth out of that crossbow, especially when you consider it's only like so much better than the next best thing. So you have to basically make the money back on that edge, not like total money per hour. It's very hard to do, and so just with the early new release items, I'd say be very, very weary. Something like a scythe, for example, too. That used to be worth about 3 to 4 bill upon release, and now is worth 600-700 mil. Just a big crash that even if you're a top tier PVMer, gonna be hard to make that money back. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like. If there's anything you'd like to let other people know in terms of how they can save their bank, feel free to let them know in the comments below. And if you want to see more videos like this as soon as they go live, make sure to subscribe. And with that said, hopefully you guys have a wonderful day, and peace.